My name is Dorothy Mayfield. I'm 63 years old, born and raised in a small town outside Lafayette, Louisiana. I've spent most of my life working as a secretary at a local school district, raised 3 boys on my own after my husband passed, and prided myself on being the kind of woman who could smell trouble from a mile away. But what happened to me last spring still haunts me. Not because of the money, though Lord knows it was a lot, but because I let it happen. I let myself believe. And I lost more than just savings. I lost trust in my own judgment. Started with a letter. A real letter, not an email. Cream-colored envelope, gold embossing, even a fake seal that looked so official I thought it might have come from Washington, D.C. I found it in my mailbox on a warm April morning. It said I'd won a lottery, not one I remembered entering, but something about it seemed different. It was from a group calling itself the American International Sweepstakes Commission. The letter claimed I'd been randomly selected based on past purchases and public sweepstakes I may have been entered in, magazines, grocery stores, things like that. Said I had won $2.5 million and a brand new SUV. My hands were shaking just holding that paper. I sat down right on my porch steps and read it twice, then 3 more times, mouth open. It had a name and a number. A Mr. Douglas Harmon, Senior Claims Officer. Said I needed to call within 72 hours or the prize would be forfeited. I didn't want to look foolish, but curiosity. And maybe a bit of quiet desperation won over. I had retirement coming up. Medical bills. And Lord knows I hadn't had anything lucky happen in years. So I called. Mr. Harmon had a kind, warm voice, the kind that reminded me of my uncle who used to sing in a barbershop quartet. He greeted me like an old friend, congratulated me with enthusiasm, and assured me that this wasn't a scam. "We're fully registered with the National Sweepstakes Board, ma'am. You can even Google our credentials," he said. I did Google it, and sure enough, a slick little website popped up. Official-looking badges, photos of winners with happy grins, even a verification tool for ticket numbers. I entered the number from my letter and it confirmed everything. I had won. But of course, there was a procedure. Mr. Harmon explained that because the prize was so large, I needed to pay federal clearance taxes before funds could be released. "It's standard," he said. "The government needs to process the prize properly, or else you'll be penalized." First, I hesitated. "I don't have that kind of money just lying around," I told him. He was smooth. "Ma'am, it's only $1,800, and you'll be reimbursed as part of the payout. It's just temporary. Think of it as unlocking the door to your future." And so, against my better judgment, and with a stomach full of butterflies, I sent the money. I wired it through a MoneyGram to a name he gave me. Felt weird. But I told myself this is how these big organizations work. 3 days later, he called again. He said there had been a delay at the Department of Prize Clearance. A new form was needed, and an additional $2,200 in international processing fees. I should have stopped there. But I didn't. I suppose this is the part of the story where people start judging. I would have judged me too before all this happened. You hear about folks getting scammed and you think, how could they fall for it? But when you're in it, it's not stupidity. It's hope. Hope that this one break is finally real. After that second payment, the calls kept coming. Always polite. Always professional. Mr. Harmon would reassure me every time. "This is the last one, Dorothy. Just one more step and we'll schedule your prize delivery." Then came a courier delay fee of $1,100. Then a non-resident tax adjustment of $3,000, even though I am a resident. I questioned that one. He sounded frustrated for the first time. Said, "I'm bending rules for you here, Dorothy. I could lose my job over this." Scared me. I didn't want to be difficult. Didn't want to ruin my own good fortune. By the 5th payment, I'd wired over $9,300 total. Every time I told myself this is the last one. I dipped into my savings, took out a small loan, even borrowed from my son Calvin without telling him the full reason why. I said I needed help with dental work. I hated lying, but shame has a way of twisting things around in your head. And still, no prize ever came. Then one day, Mr. Harmon stopped answering. I called 3 times that morning, then again in the afternoon. Straight to voicemail. His number went dead a few days later. The website, the official-looking one I'd bookmarked, disappeared too, like it had never existed. That's when the bottom dropped out from under me. I sat at my kitchen table with all the printed receipts, the letter, even a notepad where I'd written down everything I was told to do. I stared at it all for hours. It was like waking up from a spell and realizing I'd been speaking to ghosts. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I drove to the sheriff's department and showed them everything. The deputy was kind, but I saw it in his face, the look people give you when they've seen this before. He told me these kinds of scams were hard to trace. The names were fake. The phone numbers were routed through international servers. The money was probably in another country by now. He said, "Ma'am, you're not alone. We get calls like this every week." I broke down right there in his office. And not from the money. From the shame. I felt so stupid. So small. The aftermath was worse than the scam itself. I had to sit down with my kids and tell them what happened. I'd always been the strong one, the responsible one. But when I told Calvin the truth about the money I borrowed, his face crumpled like paper. My other 2 boys, Daniel and Marcus, tried to be supportive, but I could see it in their eyes, that flicker of doubt. Like they weren't sure who I was anymore. I canceled my trip to Florida. That was supposed to be my retirement treat, a week on the coast with an old high school friend. I couldn't afford it anymore. Every time the phone rang after that, my heart would race. I started to fear every unknown number. I stopped answering the door unless I recognized the car in the driveway. I even unplugged my landline for a while. But the worst part? I stopped trusting myself. I'd always prided myself on being cautious. Smart. A woman who could stretch $1 and smell a lie. But I let them in. Not just into my wallet, into my heart. There's something I've only told 1 or 2 people, and even now it's hard to say out loud. I wasn't just chasing money. I was lonely. After my husband died almost 13 years ago now, I held it together. I kept the house running, stayed busy with church, helped raise my grandkids, worked part-time at the local library. But somewhere deep down, I was aching for something to break the silence in my life. When Mr. Harmon spoke to me, he didn't just talk about payments and forms. He asked about my day. He remembered things I'd said. He told me I deserved good fortune. He made me feel like someone saw me again, not as a widow, not as a senior citizen, but just a person. That's how they do it. That's how these scammers reach you. Not just through greed, but through the cracks in your soul. And the scariest part? I wanted to believe. I wanted it all to be real so badly, I ignored every sign that it wasn't. After the dust settled, I tried to move on. But it's not so simple when the damage is emotional as much as financial. I spoke to a fraud counselor at the local senior center. She was kind, patient, and didn't make me feel foolish. She said this happens more often than people think, especially with older adults. There's even a term for it, affinity fraud, where con artists build a relationship to gain trust. I joined a support group online. Mostly women, many of them widowed or living alone like me. Some had lost more than I did, tens of thousands, even their homes. One woman in Nevada said she had to move in with her daughter because she emptied her retirement account for a scammer who promised her love. We shared our stories. We cried for each other. We laughed too, bitter laughs at first, but healing laughs eventually. And slowly I started to come back to myself. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. Just watercolors, simple stuff. Flowers, fields, little birds on fences. I even sold a few at a local fair. Didn't bring back my money, but it brought back a piece of me. I still live in the same small house in Lafayette. I still clip coupons, still make sweet tea from scratch, still plant petunias in the spring. But I'm different now. More guarded. More aware. And I'm no longer ashamed to talk about what happened. 'Cause silence is what these scammers thrive on. Embarrassment is their weapon. And I won't let them keep that power. So if you're watching this or sharing it with someone you love, I want to leave you with some hard-earned advice. Tips to avoid lottery scams from someone who knows. You can't win a lottery you didn't enter. If they say you did, it's a lie. No legitimate prize requires upfront payment. Not for taxes, not for processing, nothing. Be cautious of calls or letters claiming urgency. Scammers push you to act fast so you don't think clearly. Verify everything independently. Don't use the phone numbers or websites they provide. Look up the official source yourself. Talk to someone you trust before sending money. A second opinion can save you everything. If you feel uneasy, listen to that voice. That gut feeling? It's your guardian angel whispering, I never got my money back. But if my story keeps even one person from falling into the same trap, maybe something good can still come from it. I'm Dorothy Mayfield. And I'm not a fool. I'm a survivor.